Hey there, wake up. It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast, I'm Sam Sachs, transmitting anti-capitalist news straight into your dome, with only minimal side effects. President Trump broadened enforcement of his mass deportation program, arresting a judge who's accused of obstructing it. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan was handcuffed and perp-walked out of the courthouse last Friday by the FBI. Photo of the arrest was posted on Twitter by FBI Director Kash Patel with the caption, "No one is above the law." Well, except for the president and his close friends. Dugan's been charged with 2 felonies. Patel earlier posted more information about the arrest, but then deleted the tweet. The removed post accused Dugan of, quote, obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. It went on to claim that she intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, an undocumented immigrant, to evade arrest. The government's criminal complaint alleges that Judge Dugan was angered by the presence of ICE agents outside her courtroom who were there to arrest an individual appearing before her on April 18th. She confronted the agents about not having the proper warrant to carry out the arrest. She then went inside her courtroom and directed the man, Flores Ruiz, and his attorney through a non-public jury door, where ICE agents weren't present. Flores Ruiz was arrested anyway once he exited the courthouse. In a statement, an attorney for the judge said, quote, Hannah C. Dugan has committed herself to the rule of law and the principles of due process for her entire career as a lawyer and a judge. Judge Dugan will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated. Hundreds gathered outside the FBI's Milwaukee field office over the weekend to protest Judge Dugan's arrest. The arrest is meant to send a message to other local government officials who resist Trump's mass deportation program. Back in January, the Department of Justice issued a memo to prosecutors urging them to file charges against state and local authorities that impede ICE operations. And Trump's deportation czar, the abominable Tom Homan, issued this threat in the White House press room on Monday.
You can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted, judge or not.
Then later on Monday, Trump signed a new executive order directing the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to compile a list of sanctuary cities that are impeding immigration law, which could be a precursor to more arrests. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt posted a video from the White House lawn, which is now lined with yard signs of faces of migrants who've been arrested and are alleged to have committed serious crimes. As usual, no evidence was provided by the administration to prove the allegations. But the White House account tweeted this warning to migrants, quote, "We will hunt you down. You will face justice. You will be deported, and you will never set foot on American soil again. Oh, and your mugshot may just end up on a yard sign at the White House." It's Trump's version of heads on spikes. While Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. is focused on compiling lists of people with autism and forcing health researchers to promise not to boycott Israel, measles continues to rampage across the U.S. There are almost 900 confirmed cases so far, but the number is likely a lot higher, in what is the worst outbreak in 25 years. 10 states have reported cases, the majority in western Texas, churning in communities with low vaccination rates. The outbreak has so far killed 2 young girls, neither were vaccinated. Also, an unvaccinated adult in New Mexico died of the virus. They are the first measles deaths in the US in 10 years. And now, a pretty dang scary report is out in the Journal of the American Medical Association about what the future looks like under a vaccine skeptic health secretary like Kennedy. Researchers modeled the potential for vaccine-eliminated infectious diseases to reemerge if vaccination rates fall, which they're currently doing now in the US thanks to a skeptics movement that Kennedy has been a leader in and that picked up during the COVID pandemic. CDC data found that vaccination rates among kindergartners has dipped to 92% in 2024, down from 93% the year prior and 95% before the pandemic. Here's what the scientists' model projected, and it's pretty grim. Quote, at current state-level vaccination rates, the simulation model predicts measles may reestablish endemicity, with an estimated 851,300 cases over 25 years. Under a scenario with a 10% decline in measles, mumps, rubella vaccination, the model estimates 11.1 million cases of measles over 25 years. The model did note a significant reduction in cases if MMR vaccination rates went up just 5%, with only 5,800 cases over the next 25 years. Scientists also reported on a worst-case scenario. If childhood vaccination rates were to plunge 50%, that would create a public health disaster, with 51.2 million measles cases over a 25-year period, 9.9 million rubella cases, 4.3 million polio cases, 197 diphtheria cases, 10.3 million hospitalizations, and 159,200 deaths. So that's what making America healthy again actually means. Hope being able to fry shit in beef tallow again was worth it. And finally, voters in Canada issued a rebuke of US President Donald Trump. In an astounding turnaround since the beginning of the year, Canada's Liberal Party retained power in parliamentary elections held on Monday, keeping in place Mark Carney as Prime Minister. Carney replaced Justin Trudeau in March. Trudeau presided over a collapse in public support for the Liberal Party. But that reversed when Trump took the White House in the US in January and immediately began talking about annexing Canada, referring to it as the 51st state and calling Trudeau governor instead of prime minister. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of Canada's Conservative Party, had a 25-point lead in the polls earlier this year. But voters cast the rich landlord who wants to gut Canada's social welfare programs and install a reactionary social agenda as too closely aligned with Trump's imperial ambitions in Canada, which tanked conservatives' popularity. Trump fired off a Truth Social post on the morning of the voting, which likely further hurt conservatives' chances. The US president posted, quote, elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world, have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and all other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs or taxes if Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States of America. It's not clear if Trump was urging Canadians to vote for Poilievre or to vote for himself when he said elect the man, but Poilievre immediately tried to distance himself from the comment, posting, President Trump, stay out of our election. Ultimately, though, Poilievre ended up losing his own seat, ending his reign as the leader of the Conservatives. Here was Carney addressing supporters after his win and describing a new reality for Canada, one with the US no longer a reliable ally.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons.
Although the right and Trump were defeated in Monday's contests, it was not a great night for the left in Canada. Whatever semblance of a left-wing party that exists in Canadian politics, the New Democratic Party, got trounced as voters fled to the Liberals in order to defeat the Conservatives. It looks like the NDP will win just 8 seats after winning 24 seats in the prior election. That leaves the party short of the 12-seat threshold to retain national status. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh lost his seat and stepped down as leader of the party. The U.S. has now been bombing Yemen for 6 weeks straight, an open-ended war that's still not been declared by Congress. According to U.S. Central Command, it's hit over 800 targets in Yemen. According to the Houthi government, more than 100 civilians have been killed in those American airstrikes. On Monday, the Houthis reported that a U.S. airstrike struck a prison with African migrants inside, killing nearly 50 people. Congressional sources told the New York Times that the bombing campaign, named Operation Rough Rider, costs well over $1 billion so far. Though that doesn't include the cost of defending U.S. ships in the Red Sea from Houthi attacks. The Navy has spent about $1 billion on air defense munitions, which are being used at a rate not seen since World War II. All these resources being expended so that Israel can continue its genocide in Gaza without any consequence. Houthis have said that they would end their operations in the Red Sea if Israel ended its war on Gaza. The U.S. military claims that as a result of Operation Rough Rider, Yemen's military capabilities have been degraded. But the Houthis have proven to be resilient. In the last month, they've shot down at least 7 advanced U.S. drones, each one costing a couple $100 million. For more than a decade now, a military campaign led by Saudi Arabia and supported by the U.S. has waged an air war on Yemen to try to dislodge the Houthi government. Instead of succeeding in that, the war has just created one of the worst humanitarian crises on the planet. CNN reported that the Pentagon is already growing frustrated with Yemen's defensive capabilities. The battle plan hoped to achieve total air superiority over Yemen within a month in order to start a new phase using Reaper drones to gather intelligence and assassinate senior Houthi leaders. But the drones keep getting shot down, and the Houthis are only getting better at shooting them down. The outlet also reported on intelligence assessments showing that more than a month into this U.S. military campaign against Yemen, the Houthis' ability and intent to attack U.S. and commercial vessels in the Red Sea and attack Israel has not been subdued, and their command and control structure remains intact. In fact, just this week, the U.S. lost a $67 million FA-18 Super Hornet fighter jet after it rolled off the deck of the USS Harry Truman as the ship banked hard to evade Houthi missile fire. Houthis took responsibility for the attack on the Harry Truman, saying in a statement that Yemeni armed forces will persist to target and pursue the aircraft carrier and all enemy warships in the Red and Arabian Seas until the aggression against Yemen is halted. Pete Hegseth has barely been on the job for 3 months, and he's already losing his first war. Okay, friends, today's show ends with a sunrise from North Carolina. It was sent in by Carly and Vincent in Asheville. Enjoy. Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Vincent. Show's over. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. Please sign up for Means TV if you haven't yet, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. Also, follow us on social media. One day, capitalism will fall. Until then, we're going to be right here. See you tomorrow.